I'm feeling like my world has come crashing down around me. I've known Emma since we were about 13. We weren't close back then, but by some twist of fate, we got close when we hit 16 and started dating. We tied the knot at 21, and now we have two beautiful kids, our son Luke, who's 5, and our daughter Lily, who's 3. I'm the sole breadwinner, and I've managed to provide a good life for us, with enough money to live comfortably, save, and even go on vacations. Last year, around the end of it, I hit a rough patch. I was dealing with a lot of personal issues, and on top of that, I got laid off from work for about a month due to some problems at the work site. During that time, I tried to make the most of it by looking for another job, catching up with friends, and having a few drinks here and there, only at night after the kids were asleep. Emma and I had our fair share of arguments about it all, but I thought we were managing. By late November, I secured my current job, which has me up super early. New Year's Eve rolled around, and we went to her parents' house to watch the fireworks. The kids fell asleep there, so Emma decided to stay the night and planned to come back the next day. I couldn't stay because of work, so I left around 12:30 a.m. 3 days passed and she still hadn't come home. I started to feel like something was off. A couple of weeks went by, and one night, I got home late from work. Everyone was asleep. I went to kiss the kids goodnight, and as I walked back to the kitchen, her phone lit up. There was an unusual notification, so I checked it out. To my shock, I found out she had created a new social media account under a fake name and was chatting with another guy. As I scrolled through their messages, I saw that she had been talking to him throughout December. These weren't just friendly chats. She was calling him babe and saying how much she wanted to be with him, how she loved him, while referring to me as her ex. I was livid. I even saw a message she sent him right after I left her parents' house on New Year's Eve, wishing him a happy new year and telling him she loved him. According to their messages, they had arguments about jealousy and had split up. He was a random guy from another country. I confronted her about it, and she started with the tears and apologies, saying she was sorry and all the usual bullshit. Like a fool, I forgave her, but the trust was shattered. I loved her deeply. She was my first real love. I'd had girlfriends before, but no one I'd ever felt so strongly about. We had grown up together, got married, started a family. I couldn't just throw it all away. Fast forward to February, and the same gut-wrenching feeling came back. I did some more snooping and discovered she was talking to yet another guy on Snapchat. She was telling this guy she was single, didn't have kids, was 21, the guy was 20, and lived on the other side of the country. At first, I thought it wasn't that bad and decided to let it slide until the next day. But then, I saw the other chats she had with him. They were talking about how badly they wanted to be together and how they wanted to be intimate. The messages were explicit, and she was even sending him photos in her lingerie. I confronted her again, and she swore she would stop talking to him and block him on everything. I was going away for work the next day for a few days, so I couldn't deal with it much more at that moment. The next day, I asked her if she had blocked him after ending things, and she swore she did. When I got home, I talked to her about how much it pissed me off, and how my trust in her was completely gone because she'd betrayed me again. Right then, he messaged her again. I was beyond furious. I told her I wanted a divorce and that I was done with her. I couldn't be with someone who constantly lied. She didn't seem too bothered about it, but she didn't want me to leave for the sake of the kids. I then messaged the guy, and she found out. She started crying because he was angry at her for lying to him. She didn't cry for me, her husband, and the father of her 2 kids. That was the last straw for me. I packed up my stuff and left. She told me she loved me but wasn't in love with me. We have 2 kids together, and as stupid as it sounds, I still love her. I came back home after a month because I felt bad for my kids, but even now, she's still messaging him. She tells me she's not sending him photos and all that, but there's no trust left. I don't know what we are anymore. Technically, we're still married, but how can I be with someone like that? I love her, but I can't be with someone who would do this. I don't want to see my kids hurt because of their mother's actions. I'm feeling trapped, and it's messing with me mentally and emotionally. How can someone say they love you, but be okay with you being sad and hurt, just to talk to another guy they've never even met? After I returned home, I tried to put the pieces back together, for the kids' sake mostly. Luke and Lily didn't understand why Dad was gone for a month, and I couldn't bear to see them hurt or confused. But things with Emma were strained, to say the least. We tried to keep up appearances for the kids, but the distance between us was palpable. I remember one night in early March, just after I'd put the kids to bed. Emma and I sat down to talk. I told her how hurt and betrayed I felt, how I didn't understand why she would do this to us. She looked down at her hands the whole time, barely able to meet my eyes. She said she was sorry again, that she didn't know why she did it, but she couldn't change the past. Her words felt hollow, just like before. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was still hiding something. One evening, about a week later, I came home early from work. Emma wasn't there, and the kids were with a sitter. I decided to check her phone again. Maybe I was being paranoid, but I needed to know. I found more messages from the same guy. They were still talking, still planning to meet up one day. My heart sank. It was clear she hadn't stopped, and she had no intention of stopping. I confronted her when she got home. She tried to deny it at first, but the evidence was right there. She broke down in tears, saying she was confused, that she didn't know what she wanted. I couldn't take it anymore. I told her I was done for good this time, that I couldn't live like this. I didn't care if it hurt. I needed to think about myself and the kids. I moved out the next day and got a small apartment nearby so I could still see Luke and Lily often. It was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made, but I knew it was the right one. The kids needed a stable environment, and I couldn't provide that living with someone who constantly betrayed me. The first few weeks in the apartment were tough. I missed the kids terribly when they weren't with me. I missed the routines we had, reading bedtime stories and playing in the yard, but I knew I had to be strong. I threw myself into my work and started going to the gym again, trying to find some semblance of normalcy. One day, out of the blue, I got a call from an old friend, Tom. We hadn't talked much since high school, but he heard about what happened and wanted to check in on me. We decided to meet up for a drink, and it felt good to talk to someone who wasn't involved in the mess my life had become. Tom listened as I poured out my story. He didn't judge or offer unsolicited advice. He just listened. It was a relief to get it all off my chest. By the end of the night, I felt a little lighter. Tom suggested we make it a regular thing, meeting up once a week just to catch up and unwind. I agreed, realizing I needed that support now more than ever. As the weeks went by, I slowly started to rebuild my life. I focused on my kids when they were with me, making sure they knew I was there for them no matter what. We started new traditions like Friday movie nights and Sunday morning pancakes. It wasn't the same as before, but it was our new normal. One weekend while the kids were with Emma, I decided to take a trip to clear my head. I went up to a cabin a few hours away, a place I'd gone with my parents when I was a kid. It was quiet and peaceful, exactly what I needed. I spent the days hiking and fishing, just like I used to with my dad. It gave me time to reflect on everything that had happened and what I wanted for the future. I realized that I couldn't keep holding on to the past. Emma had made her choices, and they were out of my control. All I could do was focus on being the best dad I could be for Luke and Lily. I had to let go of the anger and betrayal not for Emma's sake, but for mine. Holding on to it was only hurting me more. When I got back, I felt more at peace. I started seeing a therapist to help me work through my feelings. It was one of the best decisions I made. Talking to someone who could offer unbiased guidance was incredibly helpful. It allowed me to process everything in a healthy way and start to move forward. Emma and I settled into a co-parenting routine. We were civil for the kids' sake, and while it wasn't always easy, we managed. I still loved her in a way, but I knew we couldn't be together. The trust was gone, and without it, there was no foundation to rebuild on. Over time, I started to find happiness again. I reconnected with old friends, made new ones, and even started dating a little. It was strange at first, but it reminded me that there were still good people out there, and that I deserved to be happy too. Life was far from perfect, but it was getting better. I focused on the things I could control, like being there for my kids and taking care of myself. Emma was still a part of my life, but she was no longer the center of it. I was creating a new chapter, one that was built on my terms. A few months passed, and things started to settle into a new rhythm. The kids were adjusting well to the new living arrangements, and I felt like I was finding my footing again. Work was going well, and I was building a solid routine with Luke and Lily. We had our ups and downs, but we were making it work. One evening, while I was helping Luke with his homework, Emma called. She sounded upset and asked if we could talk. I was hesitant, but I agreed. We met at a local cafe the next day. She looked tired and worn down, a stark contrast to the vibrant woman I had once known. Emma apologized again for everything, saying she realized how much she had hurt me and the kids. She told me she was seeing a therapist and trying to work through her issues. She asked if we could try to be friends, for the sake of the kids and ourselves. I wasn't sure if I was ready for that, but I agreed to try. We started meeting occasionally to discuss the kids and their schedules. It was awkward at first, but slowly we began to communicate more effectively. It was strange, rebuilding a relationship on different terms, but it was necessary for our children. One day, while we were at the park with the kids, Emma brought up the idea of attending a co-parenting class together. She had read about it and thought it might help us navigate this new chapter of our lives. I was skeptical, but I agreed to give it a shot. Anything to make things better for Luke and Lily. The co-parenting class was surprisingly helpful. It gave us tools and strategies to communicate better and put our kids' needs first. We learned how to handle disagreements without letting them escalate and how to support each other as parents, even if we weren't together anymore. It wasn't a quick fix, but it was a step in the right direction. As the months went by, Emma and I found a new kind of friendship. It wasn't the same as before, but it was built on mutual respect and a shared commitment to our kids. We still had our moments of tension, but we were learning to navigate them better. I also started to focus more on my own personal growth. I took up new hobbies, like woodworking and hiking, things I had always wanted to do, but never found the time for. It was therapeutic. Working with my hands and spending time in nature, it gave me a sense of accomplishment and peace. One weekend, I decided to take the kids on a camping trip. It was something we had never done before, and I thought it would be a great adventure. We packed up the car and headed to a nearby national park. The kids were excited, and I felt a sense of anticipation too. We spent the weekend hiking, fishing, and roasting marshmallows by the campfire. It was perfect. The kids had a blast, and I felt closer to them than ever. It was moments like these that made all the struggles worth it. Seeing their smiles and hearing their laughter reminded me of what truly mattered. Back at home, things continued to improve. Emma and I maintained our co-parenting routine, and the kids seemed happier and more settled. I started dating again, taking things slow and not rushing into anything serious. I was cautious, but it felt good to open myself up to new possibilities. One evening, while I was out with Tom, he asked me if I had thought about dating seriously again. I told him I was taking it one step at a time, not wanting to repeat past mistakes. He nodded, understanding. "You've been through a lot, Jack. Just make sure you do what's best for you and the kids," he said. I appreciated his support. Having friends who understood and didn't pressure me was invaluable. It gave me the strength to keep moving forward, one day at a time. Then, out of the blue, Emma called me one night. She sounded more composed than she had in a long time. She said she wanted to talk about something important. We agreed to meet at a nearby park. As we sat on a bench, watching the kids play, Emma took a deep breath. "Jack, I've been doing a lot of thinking and working on myself. I know I've hurt you deeply, and I can't change the past. But I want you to know that I'm genuinely sorry. I want us to have a healthy relationship for our kids, and I hope we can continue to work on that." I listened, feeling a mix of emotions. I could see she was sincere, and while the wounds were still there, I knew it was important for us to find a way to coexist peacefully. "I appreciate that, Emma. It's going to take time, but I'm willing to keep trying for the kids' sake." As we continued to talk, I felt a sense of closure starting to form. We would never be the same as before, but we could build something new, something better for our children. It was a start, and that was enough for now. By summer, things had settled into a stable routine. Luke and Lily were thriving, and Emma and I had found a way to co-parent effectively. We communicated better and were more in sync with each other's schedules and plans for the kids. It felt like we were finally making progress. One day, while I was at work, I got a call from Emma. She sounded excited and told me she had an opportunity for a new job, one that would allow her to have more flexible hours and be more present for the kids. She asked if I could help her prepare for the interview. I agreed, knowing this could be a great chance for her and for us as a family. We spent the next few evenings going over interview questions and practicing. It felt good to support her in this way, and it reminded me of the times when we used to be a team. When the day of the interview came, I wished her luck and hoped for the best. A few days later, Emma called me with the news that she got the job. She was ecstatic, and I was genuinely happy for her. This new role meant she could be more involved with the kids, which was a win for everyone. We celebrated with a small dinner at home, just the four of us. It was one of those rare moments of harmony that made all the struggles feel worth it. As summer turned to fall, I continued to work on myself and my relationship with the kids. We took more trips together, visited the zoo, and spent weekends at the beach. Each outing was a chance to bond and create new memories. I cherished these times, knowing how precious they were. One evening, as I was tucking Luke into bed, he looked up at me with his big, curious eyes. "Dad, are you and Mom ever going to get back together?" His question caught me off guard, and I took a moment to gather my thoughts. "Buddy, sometimes things change, and people have to live in different places, but that doesn't mean we love you any less. Your mom and I will always be here for you and your sister, no matter what." He seemed to understand, nodding slowly. "Okay, Dad, I love you." "I love you too, Luke. Always." Those conversations were never easy, but they were necessary. The kids needed to know that they were loved and that no matter what happened between Emma and me, we would always be there for them. Around this time, I met someone new. Her name was Rachel, and we clicked right away. She was kind, understanding, and patient with my situation. We took things slow, not wanting to rush into anything. It was refreshing to be with someone who respected my boundaries and supported my role as a father. Rachel met the kids after a few months, and they took to her immediately. She had a natural way with them, and I could see how happy they were around her. It was a relief to find someone who fit into our lives so seamlessly. One weekend, Rachel and I decided to take the kids to a nearby amusement park. It was a day filled with laughter, rides, and cotton candy. Seeing the kids smile and hearing their giggles filled me with a sense of joy I hadn't felt in a long time. Rachel was a part of that happiness, and I was grateful for her presence in our lives. Emma and I continued to work on our co-parenting relationship. We had our disagreements, but we were learning to handle them better. We attended a few more co-parenting classes, which helped us navigate the challenges that came with our new dynamic. As Thanksgiving approached, Emma suggested we have a joint dinner for the kids' sake. At first I was hesitant, but I agreed. We decided to have it at Emma's house, and Rachel was supportive of the idea. She understood the importance of the kids seeing their parents come together, even if just for a holiday. The dinner went surprisingly well. There were a few awkward moments, but overall, it was a success. The kids were thrilled to have both their parents and Rachel there, and seeing their happiness made it all worth it. After dinner, as we were cleaning up, Emma pulled me aside. "Thank you for doing this, Jack. It means a lot to the kids." I nodded. "It's all for them. They deserve to see us getting along." As we stood there, I realized how far we had come. It wasn't perfect, but we were making it work. For the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful about the future. The holiday season brought a sense of warmth and renewal. The kids were excited about Christmas, and we made plans to celebrate together, much like we did for Thanksgiving. It was becoming a new tradition, one that felt right for our blended family. Rachel and I took the kids to pick out a Christmas tree. We spent the afternoon decorating it, laughing, and enjoying each other's company. It was moments like these that made me realize how much my life had changed for the better. I had found happiness again, not just for myself, but for my children too. On Christmas Eve, we all gathered at Emma's house. The kids were overjoyed to have everyone together. We exchanged gifts, shared stories, and enjoyed a big holiday meal. It was a far cry from the turmoil of the past year. We were building new memories, creating a new sense of family. That night, as I tucked the kids into bed, they hugged me tightly. "This was the best Christmas ever, Dad," Lily said, her eyes sparkling with joy. I smiled, feeling a lump in my throat. "I'm glad you had a good time, sweetheart. I love you both so much." "We love you too, Dad," Luke added, his voice filled with sincerity. As I closed their bedroom door, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The journey had been hard, filled with pain and uncertainty, but we had come out stronger on the other side. Emma and I continued to co-parent effectively. We had found a balance that worked for us, and more importantly, for the kids. Rachel became an integral part of our lives, and her presence brought stability and love. She understood the complexities of our situation and supported me every step of the way. As the new year approached, I took some time to reflect on everything that had happened. It had been a year of upheaval and change, but it had also been a year of growth and healing. I had learned to let go of the past and focus on the present, on the things that truly mattered. On New Year's Eve, we decided to have a quiet celebration at home. Rachel, the kids, and I watched movies, played games, and counted down to midnight. When the clock struck 12, we toasted to new beginnings and the promise of a brighter future. Emma sent a message, wishing us a happy new year. It was a small gesture, but it meant a lot. It showed that we were moving forward, leaving the bitterness behind, and focusing on what was best for our children. As I stood on the porch, looking out at the night sky, I felt a sense of gratitude. Life had thrown me a curveball, but I had managed to catch it and keep moving. I had found love again, not just with Rachel, but with myself. I had rediscovered my strength, my resilience, and my capacity for forgiveness. The journey wasn't over, but I was ready for whatever came next. I knew there would be challenges, but I also knew I had the support of my loved ones and the strength to face them head-on. For the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. I was creating a new life, a new chapter, and I was ready to embrace it with open arms. As I walked back inside, I felt a sense of peace and contentment. The future was bright, and I was ready to face it with my family by my side. Next story, I cheated on my wife, now she is cheating on me. I guess I should start by saying I know I messed up. My name is Mike, and I'm 32 years old. I've been married to Sarah, who's 29, for 5 years now. But 3 years ago, I made a huge mistake. I cheated on her during a drunken night out. It was a one-time fling, and I regretted it immediately. Sarah forgave me, and we went through marriage counseling to try and fix things. Fast forward to 3 days ago. Sarah was in the shower, and for some reason, I decided to go through her phone. I don't know what I was looking for, but what I found was texts confirming that she was cheating on me. I felt a wave of betrayal wash over me. After she got out of the shower, I confronted her. She didn't deny it. Instead, she said it was okay because I had cheated on her first. She claimed I set the precedent for infidelity in our marriage. I tried to explain that my cheating was a one-time drunken mistake and that I had never done anything like that since. I didn't even know the girl I cheated with, while she seemed to have a real relationship with this guy. Sarah got mad and stormed off. She left for work on Friday, and I haven't seen her since. I know she's with him, and it hurts more than I can put into words. Part of me feels like I deserve this, but another part of me just wants my wife back. I'm lost and don't know what to do. I've been trying to process everything since she left. I've been thinking a lot about our marriage and where we went wrong. It feels like we've been living on borrowed time ever since my mistake. Counseling helped for a while, but maybe we never really healed. Maybe we just put a Band-Aid on a wound that needed stitches. The house feels empty without her. Every room is a reminder of what we've lost. The photos on the wall, the little notes she used to leave me, even the way her shampoo smells in the bathroom. Everything reminds me of her and what we had. I keep wondering if there's a way to fix this, to bring her back and make things right. But then I remember the texts I found. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was building a relationship with someone else. It wasn't a mistake or a moment of weakness. It was a choice she made repeatedly. That realization hits me like a punch in the gut every time. I decided to reach out to some friends for advice. Some of them were kind and understanding, offering support and suggestions on how to move forward. Others were blunt, telling me I got what I deserved. It's been a mixed bag, and honestly, it's hard to know what to think. One friend suggested I try to get in touch with Sarah, to have a real conversation about where we stand and what we want. So I tried calling her. It took a while, but I finally managed to get a hold of her. The conversation was brief and heartbreaking. She told me it was over and that she no longer loved me. Hearing those words felt like a knife to the heart. I tried to argue, to plead with her, but she was firm. She said she had moved on and that it was time for me to do the same. I asked her who the guy was, but she wouldn't tell me. It didn't take long for me to figure it out on my own, though. I managed to track her location and find out who the guy was. His name is Dave. If you're reading this, Dave, screw you. I can't believe you're part of the reason my marriage is falling apart. But then again, maybe it's not fair to blame him entirely. Sarah made her choices too. At this point, I'm just trying to figure out what's next. Part of me can't wait to get divorced now, to put all of this behind me and start fresh. But another part of me is mourning the life we built together, the future we planned. It's a strange, painful limbo to be in. I've been thinking a lot about what I want and what I need to do to heal. I know I need to focus on myself for a while, to rebuild my life and find happiness on my own. It's going to be a long, difficult road, but I have to believe it's possible. The days after that conversation with Sarah felt like a blur. I was just going through the motions, trying to make sense of everything. I threw myself into work, hoping it would distract me from the pain. But every quiet moment brought it all back, the reality of my broken marriage. I started talking to a therapist. I figured if counseling helped us once, maybe it could help me now. It was a slow process, but it was good to have someone to talk to, someone who wasn't emotionally involved in the situation. The therapist helped me see that I needed to let go of the guilt I felt over my own mistake. I couldn't change the past, but I could work on building a better future. One thing that kept coming up in therapy was the need to set boundaries. Sarah and I were still in contact, mainly about logistics and the impending divorce. But every interaction was a painful reminder of what we had lost. I needed to find a way to communicate without reopening old wounds. I decided to tell Sarah that I needed some space. We agreed to only talk about essential matters and to keep our conversations brief and to the point. It was hard at first, but it started to help. I felt a bit of the weight lifting off my shoulders, like I was finally taking a step in the right direction. Meanwhile, I tried to stay busy. I reconnected with old friends, people I had lost touch with over the years. It was good to have a support system, folks who knew me before all this happened. We went out for drinks, played some pickup basketball games, and just hung out. It reminded me that there was life outside of my marriage, that I could still have fun and be happy. One night, while I was out with some friends, I ran into an old acquaintance from high school, Lisa. We hadn't seen each other in years, but we quickly fell back into an easy conversation. It felt good to talk to someone who knew me before all this mess, someone who remembered the old Mike. Lisa and I started hanging out more. It was just casual at first, meeting up for coffee or a drink after work. But over time, I started to realize how much I enjoyed her company. She was easy to talk to, funny, and kind. It was a stark contrast to the tension and heartbreak I had been dealing with at home. One evening, as we were sitting in a coffee shop, Lisa asked me about Sarah. I hadn't talked much about my situation with her, not wanting to burden her with my problems. But she was genuinely interested, and for some reason, I felt like I could trust her. I told her everything, from my mistake 3 years ago to finding out about Sarah's affair. Lisa listened without judgment, offering sympathy and support. It felt good to get it all out, to share my story with someone who cared. After that conversation, Lisa and I grew even closer. I started to realize that maybe there was a future for me beyond the pain and betrayal. Maybe I could find happiness again, with someone who truly cared about me. But I knew I needed to take things slow. I wasn't ready to jump into another relationship, not with all the baggage I was carrying. Lisa understood that, and she was patient. She became a good friend, someone I could rely on as I navigated this new chapter of my life. As the weeks turned into months, I started to feel more like myself again. The pain was still there, but it was starting to fade. I focused on my work, my friends, and my own well-being. I took up new hobbies, like running and cooking, finding joy in small, everyday activities. The divorce process was slow and painful, but I knew it was the right thing. Sarah and I had both made mistakes, but we needed to move on. I wanted to find closure, to start fresh without the weight of our past dragging me down. One day I got a call from Sarah. She sounded different, more at peace. She told me she had been seeing a therapist too, and that she was working on herself. She apologized for everything, for the pain she caused and the way things ended. It was a genuine apology, and I could hear the sincerity in her voice. We talked for a while, and it felt like a weight had been lifted. We both acknowledged our mistakes and agreed that moving on was the best thing for both of us. It was a bittersweet conversation, but it brought a sense of closure that I desperately needed. With the divorce finalized, I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. It was the end of a chapter, but also the beginning of something new. I threw myself into my work and my new hobbies, trying to build a life that was mine and mine alone. Lisa and I continued to spend time together, but I was careful to keep things platonic. I valued her friendship too much to risk complicating things. She was a constant source of support, and I didn't want to lose that. But as time went on, I started to feel something more. It was a gradual realization, but one day it hit me. I was falling for her. I wasn't sure if she felt the same way, and I didn't want to ruin what we had by pushing too hard, too fast. But one evening, as we were sitting on my porch, I decided to take a chance. I told her how I felt, how much she meant to me, and how I wanted to see where things could go between us. To my relief, Lisa felt the same way. She admitted she had been waiting for me to say something, unsure if I was ready to move on. We decided to take things slow, to see where this new relationship could lead without rushing into anything. Our first official date was simple, just dinner and a movie, but it felt special. It was a chance to start fresh, to build something new on a foundation of trust and mutual respect. Lisa understood my past and accepted me for who I was, mistakes and all. As our relationship blossomed, I started to feel a sense of hope I hadn't felt in a long time. The future didn't seem so bleak anymore. I had someone who cared about me, who wanted to build a life with me. It was a new beginning, and I was ready to embrace it. I still had moments of doubt and fear, memories of my failed marriage that would creep in and threaten to pull me back. But with Lisa by my side, I felt stronger, more resilient. I knew I couldn't change the past, but I could learn from it and make better choices moving forward. One day while we were hiking in the mountains, Lisa turned to me and said, "You know, I think this is just the beginning for us." I smiled, feeling a surge of gratitude and love. She was right. It was just the beginning, and I couldn't wait to see where our journey would take us. As Lisa and I grew closer, I started to notice a change in myself. I was more optimistic, more willing to take risks and embrace new experiences. She encouraged me to step out of my comfort zone, to try new things and pursue my passions. It was a refreshing change from the stagnant life I had been living. One of those passions was cooking. I had always enjoyed it, but I had never really taken the time to develop my skills. With Lisa's encouragement, I started experimenting in the kitchen, trying out new recipes and techniques. It became a shared hobby, something we could do together and enjoy. We started hosting small dinner parties with friends, turning our kitchen experiments into social events. It was fun, and it brought a sense of community and connection that I had been missing. It was a reminder that life was full of possibilities, that there was always room for growth and new experiences. Around this time, I also reconnected with my family. I had been distant for a while, caught up in my own problems and pain. But with Lisa's support, I reached out and started mending those relationships. It was healing, both for me and for them. It felt good to be part of a family again, to have that support system in place. One evening, after a particularly successful dinner party, Lisa and I sat on the porch, sipping wine and watching the stars. It was a quiet moment, but it felt significant. We talked about our future, about our hopes and dreams. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly hopeful. Lisa mentioned that she had always wanted to travel more, to see the world and experience different cultures. It was something I had always dreamed of too, but I had put it on the back burner for so long. We started planning trips, even if they were just ideas for now. It was exciting to think about the adventures we could have together. As the months went by, our relationship continued to grow. We faced challenges, of course, but we tackled them together. Lisa's patience and understanding were a constant source of strength for me. She helped me navigate the ups and downs, always reminding me of the progress I had made. One day while we were on a weekend getaway in the mountains, I realized just how much my life had changed. We were sitting by a campfire, talking about our future plans, and I felt a sense of peace and contentment that I hadn't felt in years. It was a new chapter, one filled with love, hope, and endless possibilities. As Lisa and I continued to build our life together, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought me here. From the depths of betrayal and heartbreak to the joy of finding love again, it had been a long and difficult road, but it was a road that had led me to a place of healing and happiness.